John Durham Peters published Speaking into the Air in 1999, and it remains an incredibly influential work in the field of communication studies. The subtitle, A History of the Idea of Communication, gives us a clue about what Peters is trying to do. He is asking us to think deeply about a simple yet profound question: what does it really mean, to communicate? Communication, Peters suggests, is not as straightforward as it seems. The phrase speaking into the air perfectly captures this idea. Think about it. When you speak, there is no guarantee someone will hear you, let alone understand you. This is true not just in personal conversations but also in broader communication contexts like the media, the internet, or even the historical speeches. So, why study this book? There are a few reasons, and very important one. Number one, bridging traditions. Peters connects the American empirical approach to communication with European philosophical thought. Number two, a unique perspectives. Instead of focusing on technical details, Peters explores historical, philosophical, and even spiritual dimensions of communication. Number three, a broad scope. The book takes us on a journey from the time of Plato and St. Paul to today's digital technologies. It's a historical and intellectual adventure. Number four, a critique of reductionism. Finally, Peters challenges us to move beyond the narrow, overly simplified views of communication that dominate modern research. Think of this book as a guide to understanding how ideas about communication have evolved over centuries and why those ideas matter even more. Major themes and arguments. Now that we know the background of the book, let's talk about the key themes and arguments Peter makes. Number one, the dual nature of communication. Peters introduces this idea that communication has two faces, what he calls a bridge and a chasm. Number one, on one hand, communication acts as a bridge. It connects people across time, space, and differences. Think of letters, phone calls, or broadcasts. They allow us to reach others who are far away. Number two, on other hand, communication reveals a chasm. There is always a risk of misunderstanding, of failure, or failing to truly connect. Think about a text message you misinterpreted or a speech that felt out of touch with its audience. This duality of between a bridge or chasm, a connector and a disconnector, these both modes of communication as connection and failure is a recurring theme in Peter's work. Number two is philosophical dualities. Here, Peters bridges in two fascinating models of communication. Number one, the dialogue model, Socratic method. This is the idea of face to face, direct interaction, like two people talking and exchanging ideas. It's immediate and personal. Number two, the dissemination model, Christological. This is more about broadcasting to an unseen, unknown audience. Think of someone giving a speech in a large hall or sending a message into space. Now, Peters argues that both models have their strengths and limitations. For example, while dialogue allows for personal connection, dissemination can reach far more people. But in both cases, perfect understanding is often unattainable. Number three, critique of perfect understanding. Here is one of the book's central arguments. Peters challenges the notion that communication should always lead to perfect understanding. We often assume that if we communicate well, the other person will understand us completely. But is that realistic? Peters argues that difference, even miscommunication, can actually be productive. It can spark creativity, cooperation, and new ideas. Think of a time when a misunderstanding forced you to think differently or find new solutions. This is a radical way of looking at communication, but it's also liberating because it frees us from the pressure to get it right every single time. Theoretical foundations. Next, Peters grounds his arguments in the works of some of the greatest thinkers in history. He explores communication as philosophical problem through the ideas of figures like Plato Augustine, Kierkegaard, Hegel, and Locke. Let's highlight a few key points here. Augustine's doctrine of science. Augustine viewed communication as something deeply spiritual and tied to science. He even explored how angels communicate, direct, unmediated connection. Number two comes Locke's individualism. John Locke shifted the focus of communication to the individual mind. For him, communication was about conveying mental ideas as clearly as possible. Number three, Kierkegaard's paradox and irony. Kierkegaard emphasized the tensions and contradictions in communication. He believed that these paradoxes force us to think and engage more deeply. What is fascinating is that Peters uses these ideas to show how communication has always been more than just a practical tool. It is an ethical and philosophical process. For instance, when we communicate, we take on certain obligations to listen, to respect differences, and to interpret others' perspectives fairly. Now, historical evolution of communication. Now, let's take a journey through a history of communication as Peters describes it. Number one, ancient to modern transitions. Peters explores how communication evolved from oral traditions to writing, printing, and eventually electronic media. Each new technology, whether it's a telegraph, phonograph, or a radio, has transformed how we connect and communicate. Number two, spiritualist traditions. One of the most interesting parts of the book is how Peters connects technology with mystical aspirations. For example, in the 19th century, people believed technologies like the telegraph could enable telepathy or communication with the dead. Number three, media as ghost machines. Devices like the phonograph and cinema are described as ghost machines because they blur the lines between the living and the dead. Think of hearing someone's recorded voice years after they have passed away. That's the phantasm Peters is talking about. Communication and technology. Peters also discusses the role of different technological paradigms in shaping our ideas about communication. For example, the telegraph. Peters sees the telegraph as a metaphor for spiritual connections. It collapses distance but does not guarantee understanding. The radio. Radio brings immediacy and emotion. It is a medium of love, hatred, and passion. Film and phonography. These technologies simulate presence and bind time. A movie can make us feel like someone from the past is right here with us. Each new technology, Peters argues, produces a phantasm, an illusion of presence that challenges traditional notions of absence and distance. Critical reception. How was Peters' work received? He has been compared with thinkers like Marshall McLuhan for his philosophical depth. Critics praised the book's erudition and aesthetic style. It's beautifully written and deeply thought provoking. However, some point out that Peters focuses heavily on Western traditions, leaving out non Western and semiotic perspectives. Despite these critiques, the book makes a significant contribution by recentering history, religion, and philosophy in communication studies. But now, what are the ethical implications? One of the most powerful parts of the book is the discussion of the ethical dimensions of communication. Peters advocates for a kind of radical democracy, a form of communication that includes all beings, humans, animals, even the dead. He challenges us to respect otherness. Instead of eliminating differences, we should celebrate them. Take ethical responsibility for how we interpret and respond to others. This is a bold critique of the status quo in academic communication studies, which often focuses on narrow empirical metrics. Now, insights for communication studies. So, to summarize, Peters gives us three powerful insights for communication studies. Number one, interdisciplinary approach. We need philosophy, history, theology, and media studies to truly understand communication. Number two, historical depth. Understanding communication's past helps us make sense of its present and future. Number three, philosophical critique. Communication isn't just about clarity or efficiency, it's about ethics, ambiguity, and navigating human differences. Together, these insights challenge us to approach communication studies with a broader, more reflective perspective. Instead of seeing communication as a technical skill, Peters shows us that it's a deeply human struggle that reflects our hopes, fears, and connections to one another. So, the discussion and takeaways, I will wrap up and we will reflect on few key questions. Number one, what does Peters mean by speaking into the air? How does this relate to modern communication? How does the book challenge the idea of perfect understanding? The big takeaway here is that communication is complex and often imperfect, but that's okay. Miscommunication can lead to growth, creativity, and new connections. Peters encourages us to think about communication in historical, ethical, and philosophical ways, and to appreciate the beauty of our shared human struggles to connect. Therefore, this book isn't just about understanding communication, it's about understanding ourselves as humans striving to connect despite all the challenges and complexities we face. Thank you for being such engaged learners throughout this journey. So, this lecture was given to make you make sense of how Peter's work connects everything we have studied and why it remains so relevant today. Thank you.